Good morning. Those of you who are here and those of you who may be watching online, maybe sometime during the week, other than Mother's Day. We should have thought maybe about Mother's Day. We were so glad to be having class begin again that we didn't even think about it. So I apologize for that. Happy Mother's Day to all of you mothers. And let's open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this Mother's Day. Thank you for a new day of life for all of us. Thank you for today's sermon. Thank you that we need to think not so much about ourselves, but outwardly, as Dan said. And I hope today's presentation will lead us in that direction, and I'm quite sure it will. Lord, thank you for Patty. And again, thank you for those who are here, and thank you for those who are online. In Jesus' name, amen. It's my privilege to introduce Patty Mulder to you. Maybe most of you know her. She's been around Christ Memorial quite a bit. Let's see, she said that John has been here. It'd be nice if I'd have worn my glasses. John has been here 30 years, 35 years? Okay, 1984. And Patty's been here 27. So she's one of our own, and we're so glad to have her presenting today. She has a bachelor's degree from Calvin. She has a master's degree from Michigan State. They have 3 children. Sophie is with John over there. Thanks for coming, you guys. Their eldest child is a Calvin graduate. Their next is a junior at Calvin. And their youngest, who I believe is Sophie, is at Holland Christian. And guess where she plans to go to college?
3 for 3.
3 out of 3, yes. Patty has had worked previously here at Christ Memorial in the counseling department for 18 years, and some of you probably remember her from that. Mm-hmm. And the last 6 years of her life, she's worked at Holland Hospital as a medical social worker. And she had to change the focus a bit after last week's presentation. So it'll be very interesting to hear what Patty came up with. Does everyone have the handout? Yes?
Talks about mindfulness on the top. Okay.
Okay,
good.
Wonderful. And if there's time for questions afterwards, she'll stick around. Good. Thank you so much again for being here.
Oh,
thank you, Patty.
Thanks, Leslie. So, having worked here for as long as I have and being a member with all of you guys, I feel like you guys can roll with me a little bit, because after last week's message, or the presentation, I thought she did such a great job of explaining sort of the mental illness and how the mentally ill have kind of struggled through the COVID stuff. And so I figured, since she did such a good job of sort of showing you guys sort of what's happening, that I would maybe follow up with what can we do with all of the struggles that everybody is going through. Like Leslie said, I do work at Holland Hospital. Primarily, I'm working on the inpatient behavioral health floor for adults who are suicidal or depressed or have some severe mental illness. And so I thought it would be a fun thing for me to sort of teach you guys what I teach to the patients on my floor. But I wanted to start out a little bit by kind of sharing what's been happening at Holland Hospital through the whole COVID pandemic. I think when the pandemic hit in March of last year, we at Holland Hospital for the mental health part saw a kind of a decline in our patients. We were pretty low census for a little while in there, and I think that was because the patients were really struggling with not wanting to be infected with COVID or, get exposed. And so they were staying in place and isolated, which when you're mentally ill is not necessarily a good thing. They were isolated from their support network. They were isolated from their treatment teams. And so after the initial sort of downturn, we started to see more and more patients coming in with a lot more serious issues than we had seen before because they had been maybe off of their medications for a while, or their therapist wasn't seeing them face to face and sort of seeing and checking in with them to see how they were doing. So for the last year and a half, it's really been a struggle with people who are coming in with multiple issues, whether it's, having to restart all the way up back on their medications, and that takes a little while to kind of get up to a therapeutic level, or they're struggling with homelessness, or just different factors that are sort of co-occurring at the same time for our patients. We did a check last week, or in the last week or two, and we determined that when you are struggling, you go to the emergency department and get an evaluation. And we determined that since COVID has started, the emergency department has done at least twice the amount of evaluations per month than we were prior to the pandemic. So if that kind of gives you an inclination of how severe it's sort of gotten through this, it is really, really kind of in a rough place. So that's sort of what's been happening. And so when we have patients that come in on the 6th floor, they're obviously hurting in a lot of ways. And so we, on the 6th floor, do a program. We run classes and groups, and we teach coping skills. And actually, the skills that we teach are called dialectical behavioral therapy skills, DBT. And DBT was created by a woman in Seattle, Washington. And it kind of combines behavioral therapy, doing things on purpose to sort of distract from the high intensity of emotion, and also with some mindfulness skills and some different things. So I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the skills that we do. I forgot one thing. I wanted to talk a little bit about the issues that some of our patients are having as it relates to their support networks and their therapy. So a lot of the counseling that's been happening over the past year and a half has been telehealth, sort of a virtual one-on-one therapy. And that has been a little bit difficult for the patients. We had one patient that came into us, and I, as a social worker, usually make contact with the therapists, and was talking to the therapist, and she was saying, my patient came in and she had been suicidal and had actually tried to overdose. And the therapist said, I had no idea that she was even thinking that at the time. And I said, well, how could that be? What was happening? And she said, well, I'm just seeing her sort of on a screen, and I can't really make that judgment on if she, where one-on-one, you can maybe get a little bit deeper. And the therapist said the client was more quiet, was more reserved, and the therapist was trying to ask her questions, and the patient, or my patient, kept looking off to the side, and she said, well, what are you looking at? Well, some of her family was in the house, and so she didn't want to share exactly how she was feeling because she didn't want people to overhear. So that kind of is an issue, obviously, when you're doing this telehealth. You're not being able to be one-on-one and really kind of get down to things. Also, part of my job is to set up patients with outpatient providers. And here in Holland, there are almost no therapists that are actually taking new patients at this time. They are all overloaded. They all are full. And so that's been a struggle as well. I know Ann was talking about community mental health, and we work very closely with them. And again, they're really struggling to kind of keep up with the demand of all of the people that are really needing treatment. So it's been a struggle for the last at least 6 months for that. So like I said, we teach DBT, and there's 4 different parts of the DBT skills that we teach. The first section, we teach a lot of mindfulness, and we're actually going to practice that in a few minutes, so get excited. So we do mindfulness, and mindfulness is the practice of paying attention. It's the practice of paying attention to the thoughts that are happening inside of your head. And we don't always do that on a regular basis. We just sort of go through our day, and our thoughts are our thoughts, and we don't pay attention to them. But if we're going through our day and we're thinking, oh, this is just a horrible day, or I'm worried about the conversation that I have to have with my boss, next week, or, I'm still so upset about the conversation that I had with my, child or husband or whatever, or I don't know how I'm going to be able to pay my bills. Those thoughts are racing through our head all the time, and we're not even aware of them. And as we go through our day and we have those thoughts, we make decisions. Our emotions are generated from those thoughts. And so when we're practicing our mindfulness, we're really practicing paying attention to those thoughts. And when we're able to pay attention to them, we're able to deal with them better. Whether it's to let it go and just say, I can't deal with that right now, it's just a thought, or I need to stop worrying about this, or it just sort of grounds us in the present moment. And so we do a lot of mindfulness because it's important. And studies have shown that if you do mindfulness regularly as sort of a part of your life, your brain chemistry actually engages in a different way. And you become more focused, more grounded, more able to deal with stress. So on our floor, we start the day out with mindfulness. We have a team meeting at 8:15 every day, and we start that day out with doing a little mindfulness with just the team of us. And then before every class, we do a little bit of mindfulness with the patients. And the patients will say the favorite part of their day sometimes is the mindfulness that they do around 8 o'clock at night. And we do that sort of as a calming way to sort of settle ourselves into getting ready for bed. And so that's kind of a real fun, enjoyable part. I want to give you a little story about how mindfulness is used on our floor. On Sundays, if I'm working on a weekend, I always do, it's called a body scan, and so I do a body scan Sunday, which is we get some mats out, and we clear off the floor in our room that we're teaching in, and we all lay on a yoga mat and practice a body scan. And a body scan is focusing our attention on different parts of our body, and the one that I like to do, it takes about a half hour. So that is a pretty intense time of mindfulness. It's like you've got to focus your attention for a half hour. And everybody, when I walk in and I get so excited and I'm like, we're going to do a body scan, they're always like, I don't think I can lay here for a half hour. And I don't think I can focus for a half hour. And I said, that's not the point. The point is we're going to practice it. The point is our minds are going to wander from time to time, but we're practicing bringing it back to the different body parts. And I had one guy, he was in a car accident years and years ago and had chronic pain. And that chronic pain had led to a series of depression and then eventually suicidal thoughts. And so he was really struggling, and the pain was always going to be there. It was just kind of this chronic thing that he was learning to have to live with. And so he did a body scan with me, and he came up to me afterwards, and he was like, Patty, it was, he couldn't even speak. He was so excited. He was like, as I was paying attention to the body parts that weren't painful for me, because I think his pain was in his back and some of his neck, and he was like, if I was paying attention to my knee, let's say, I wasn't feeling my back hurt as much. I wasn't feeling my neck hurt as much because I was focusing my attention on a different part of my body. And he was so excited that it was a way that he could actually kind of control a little bit what was going on in his body. And so, I mean, every day after that, he would stop me and he'd say, Patty, I did another body scan. I did it before I went to sleep last night, and I slept great, and way to go, good job, you know? So it's just a way that I can connect with the patients, and we learn something new, and we practice it, and it's just kind of a fun thing. So we're gonna try one, all right? So I want you guys to, let's see, sit quietly. I'm going to sit too, and we're going to see. Hopefully this will be loud enough. Let's see. All right. Yeah, no, I know. I'm going to try to get this going here. Yeah, no, we're going to sit. All right, so place your feet and get into a comfortable position. And it's going to be 5 minutes, and so she'll kind of walk you through this a minute.
Hi, this is Joanna. This is going to be a simple relaxation meditation that you can do anywhere. Perhaps you've had a busy day or have a distracting situation constantly pulling you off into thought. This is a good, simple practice to help you connect back to the body and the present moment. Nothing complicated, keeping it to the basics of the first foundation of mindfulness, breath and body. Don't worry about sounds or activities around you. Just let them be there. It's okay. Let's get started. First, find a posture that is attentive yet relaxed, and getting an uprightness in your spine. It's not too rigid, yet also not too casual. And if you feel comfortable to do so, closing your eyes now, and if not, just keeping your lids slightly open and gazing a few inches ahead of you. And we'll do a body scan to get settled into the body. Starting with the feet. Let your attention land here. Not so much thinking about the feet, but actually feeling the sensations in the feet. Maybe a warmth or a coolness, a vibration, the pressure of whatever your feet are in contact with. Just allowing your attention, your awareness to land on your feet. Moving up into the shin and the calf area. Overall sensation of that body part. Then moving into the thigh area. Feeling the contact with whatever you're sitting on. The belly and the mid-back area. Perhaps when we're at the belly area, feeling the expansion and contraction of the breath. Up the chest and upper back. Also perhaps feeling the movement of breathing. Now the shoulders, the arms, the hands. See if there's any tension. Up into the neck, the throat area, whatever is being held there. Moving into the face, the cheeks, the mouth, the forehead, eyes, ears, the whole of the head. And now sensing into the whole body. An overall feeling of what it's like to be in this body. Now you can open your eyes if they were closed, reorient, feel into your body, and continue on with your day.
All right. Thank you for practicing that with me. One of the things that I really wanted to do in talking with you and sort of showing you some of these, I know you guys are all in contact with people in your world struggling with isolation, loneliness, depression, difficulty, anxiety due to all of the craziness that's happening. And I really wanted to give you some tools, some things that you can sort of encourage yourselves and or other people with. And so, yes, I looked at my office we've got a list of all different mindfulness apps that you can get on your phone, computer. The one that I just did was called 10% Happier. And that's a really good one, but there's Headspace or the Calm app. Lots and lots and lots of different ways that you can access mindfulness. And they say that it would be good to practice maybe 5 to 15 minutes per day if you have that time. So I usually like to either start my day out with it or end my day. Those are the two times that I really appreciate it or enjoy it. My husband will let you know that it's over in bed in the middle of the night and I've got my headphones in, body scan because I can't sleep and my brain is going crazy, and so I'll use to help myself get back to bed. There's a lot of different ways that you can practice mindfulness. I will let you guys know. I've got a paper, I couldn't find it. The 3 I just said was 10% Happier, Headspace, and the Calm app. The Calm app, I think, even has like some celebrities who maybe read bedtime stories for kids and things on it. Sophie's got that one, so that's a good one. So second, the next 3 parts of DBT are, one of them called distress tolerance. So it's mindfulness, distress tolerance. And distress tolerance skills are used for times when our emotions kind of reach a crisis point, whether it's you get a phone call or you hear about somebody else who's in your circle who's gotten COVID, you have just this rush of emotion and you just it feels out of control. And generally we react in the moments, right? It's like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. And we maybe overeat, or, people drink, or they get in their car and drive somewhere, or they, get angry or crawl in bed and just, not get up. And so the distress tolerance skills are to be in place of maybe doing some of those negative behaviors. And so they're pretty practical, and we're going to them here and kind of explain what those are for. Primarily on sixth floor, we basically do a lot of teaching of mindfulness and distress tolerance. And that's because everybody that comes up to our floor is in crisis. They are having that emotional overload. And so we try to teach them skills that they can use. So when we're going through these skills, I want you guys to think about yourselves and ways that it would help you in your life to do some of these skills, but also if there are other people in your world that you can encourage to kind of do some of these things. I think a lot of times when we see somebody that's hurting, we just don't know how to reach out to them. We don't know what to give them or say to them that might, be helpful for them. And so these are some things that you guys can practice yourselves and can sort of help other people with. So quickly, the last two parts of DBT are interpersonal effectiveness, and so skills that are helpful with helping our patients sort of communicate with people in their world, kind of help them get what they need for what they need in their lives. And the last one is emotional regulation, which is just exactly what it sounds like, ways to get our emotions to not high and low, to sort of help, kind of keep it within normal limits. So, all right, so if you guys can go into the handout, I did put a body scan meditation in there too, so you guys can sort of walk through that on your own. But then if we can look at distracting with accepts, that's what I'm going to start working on. How many of you guys have seen a mom pushing her child around in a grocery cart at Meijer or grocery store, and all of a sudden the little kid will see or a donut or something like that. Says, I want a donut. And the mom says, no, we're not here for donuts. We're just going to get, milk and eggs and whatever. What does the kid start to do? Scream, freak out. I want it, right? That can be how we feel sometimes when our emotions are getting us out of control, right? It's just this rush of, ah. And back in the day, kids were little, we didn't have these things. I usually had to pack in my purse, crayons or some kind of a toy or something. But the moms nowadays, they just hand their kids their phone, right? And what does the little kid do when he's going from, I want the candy? Oh, I'm going to play a little game, or I'm going to watch a video or something like that, right? And they get distracted from all of that emotion. So when I'm talking about the accept skill and the improve skill that we're going to do, I want you guys to kind of picture, all right, you're in this high state of emotion. You're not sure what to do with yourself. You're overwhelmed. You're anxious. You're about whatever. And think about some of these things that I'm going to talk about and ways that they're able to distract you from that high emotion. I can tell you, I would not have gotten through the pandemic without DBT skills. And there have been times, these guys can attest, where it's, I just need a distraction. I need to do something because I'm feeling so out of control. I'm feeling so helpless, feeling like, oh, if Sophie has to go through one more loss, right? It's like, she one after the next. Nope, she can't go to, and it just feels helpless sometimes. And when I get overwhelmed, when I get upset, sometimes I just need to distract myself from that because there's nothing I can do about it in the moment, right? So think about that while I kind of walk you through the accept skill. So Marsha Linehan, the person that invented DBT, likes to use a lot of acronyms so that we can remember some of the things. So we distract ourselves by doing some activities. Focus attention on a task that you need to get done. Rent movies, TV, clean a room in your house, play a game or do a puzzle, go walking or exercise, go out for a meal or eat your favorite food, listen to music, read magazines, books, comics. And then when I'm teaching class, I like to have everybody kind of come up with some things that they feel would work, activities that they think would help. Sometimes that can be crafts. Sophie likes to crochet, and I like to tell my patients that, because they always are skeptical, like how is, doing a craft going to distract me from my emotion? And my daughter, when she gets upset, she loves to just take her yarn, go into her room, get music, and crochet. And as she's cutting the stitches, as she's, making her blanket that she's making, it's distracting. She can't think about the test that she has while she's counting her stitches. It doesn't work, right? So we need to find activities that we can do that are enjoyable, but that will take our mind off of what's going on, right? I'm kind of a DBT nerd, so I like to have on we've got a Netflix account or whatever, I put in how you can put in a library or whatever of different things. And I like to put in my library some things that I know will distract me, whether it's, this is, a funny show that I really can, or, a movie that it's, kind of exciting or whatever. And so I'll put those in on purpose so that when I'm upset, when I'm distracted, I can just go right there, right? I'm not flipping through all of the little options. I have that all in my thing. I also have on my phone some playlists of some music that will help at those moments, so I can just plug it in and play. John talked about my podcasts. I like to do podcasts. That kind of keeps my brain from, going into a bad place. So if you can purposefully set up your world to have some of those activities, have books that you want to read, or if you like to cook, have some recipes that you make in those moments, and just really purposefully kind of sink into, I need a distraction, and this is what I can do. Does that make sense? Okay, one of the C's stands for contributing. And there's some ideas there on the list, but when we're in our own heads, we're upset about something, we get inside focused, right? It's all about me and what I'm feeling in this. I'm having a bad day. I'm dealing with this. And so in order to get ourselves out of that and distract, do something nice for someone. Contribute in some way. So if that's walking outside, seeing a neighbor has some weeds in their yard, just, maybe picking a few weeds, or bringing some cookies to somebody that you care about. The other day, our neighbor showed up, and she knocked on her door. She had a little thing of flowers and some cheese. She had somehow gotten a big block of cheese, and I'm not sure how, but she was cutting off little pieces and giving them to some of the neighbors. And it was like, oh, thank you. You feel good. You feel good when you give, and you feel good when you receive. And so that can kind of sometimes distract you from what's going on. The next C is a little bit difficult. Talking about patience. So when you're in a state of high emotion, sometimes comparing your life or your distress to someone else can maybe help you get things more into a perspective. like I said, this one's hard. It's very difficult. So, for example, John and I were redoing our house, our kitchen, and Dad had come over, and God love him, he was trying to help us, and so we had moved a pipe out of the kitchen, and so we had put it into the wall, and my dad had been helping us with our cabinets and had put our up and hung it for us above our stove. And at night, so I'm kind of cleaning up and upstairs, flush the toilet. And the next thing I knew, we were watching out of our wall. And I got frustrated and upset, and I think John, we're just like, what are we gonna do? We had just drywalled and everything, and it was like, oh my goodness, here we go. And we were upset. At the time that this was all going on, the girl in Sophie's school who was dying from cancer at the moment. And so in that, even though there's toilet water running into, I was able to say, this is not that bad. This is something that I can manage. That's something worse, right? So sometimes in those, I'm able to say, okay, there are people who don't have homes, and I have a home or something, even though it feels like your emotion is out of control. That's comparisons. I'm going to go through the next three pretty quickly, but emotions, if you're sad, watch a funny movie or read a funny book. If you're angry, do something that calms you down and is peaceful. Play some peaceful music around the house. Light a candle and just sort of have it be there to calm you down. So do things that create the opposite emotion. Away is one that I really, really like. I did this a couple nights ago when I woke up in the night. It seems to be my pattern these days. And I had all of these things that I had to get done the next day or the next days or the next. And pushing away is like sort of imagining yourself just put it on a shelf. In my case, I just throw it on the ground of my bed. Like, all right, I'm getting it up, getting it out, because I can't deal with it right now. There's nothing I can do. And so stressing out about it is not going to be, productive at all. So that's pushing. Distracting yourself with thoughts, doing a Sudoku, counting 10,000, just doing something to distract your brain from what's going on and the emotion of it. I like to do sometimes name every letter of the alphabet, and when I name the letter, like A, think of how many foods with a letter of A. Apple, apricot, avocado. And it takes my brain, it distracts it, right? So that's thoughts. And then sensations. Again, I do DBT a lot, and I like hot have any of you guys cinnamon candies, those hot cinnamon candies? Or really sour lemon candies. When you're sucking on one of those sour lemon candies, thinking about, I'm so stressed out. You're like, it takes, again, it's that distraction that you need. It kind of takes your brain off of it. So we like to hold ice on our floor too, like have somebody, if you've got to have a difficult conversation with someone, hold an ice cube while you're doing it. Because it's kind of distracting you from the emotion of the moment. It kind of keeps your cool, literally. So that's one of the things that we like. All right, if you guys walk you through the improve skill quickly. So again, these are distractions. Imagery. Imagery is yourself somewhere calm and peaceful, taking yourself out of your own head and putting yourself on a beach or sitting in a boat fishing or up on a mountain looking out at the world. And it'll bring a sense of peace. You could look at pictures. At the hospital, there's, not sure if it's called the Calm Channel or what it's called. Anybody know? Anyway, it's a care channel, sorry. And it's just scenes of nature with beautiful music playing. And so we'll have that on quite a bit because it's just so peaceful. And so you watch the waterfall or you watch the ocean kind of coming in and going out. And it's just a calm, peaceful thing. So that's imagery, taking yourself out of the moment. M stands for meaning, so distracting yourself. This is kind of like the comparison part of the accept. But meaning is really difficult. Finding a positive thing comes from your struggle. When I learning this skill, I thought there's just no way. Like if I'm struggling with something, even, if is sick, or how can I find some kind of purpose, good thing? It didn't really fit for me. But I've learned it takes on a little bit of its own part where it's like I do have healthy kids, right? The rest of my life is all in chaos. Things are happening that I don't want. Things are upsetting to me. I still have 3 healthy kids, or I have a great husband, or the meaning can look different, and it can become your blessings or things you're thankful for. Sometimes you can say, I went through that really difficult time, but I made it through that time years ago, and I can make it through again. So trying to find some kind of a purpose in that way too, like I was strong back then, I can be strong now. Those of us who obviously use prayer in that way, where when you're really, really struggling, you can pray, right? It's important, and that's why we teach it, because saying, God, I can't do this anymore. I just don't know what to say or do. Please just help me in this moment, or give me peace, or, sort of speak to me in this, or just take my burden right now, right? It's very important while we're struggling to be able to do that, or ask other people. I think we're dealing with things on our own. It's like we don't want to reach out. Just kind of isolate and keep all of our problems to ourselves. We don't want to burden anybody with them. But just reaching out and saying, hey, I'm struggling, will you pray for me, can bring us some peace in our moments of struggle, right? Yes. What do our bodies do? Tense. Yes. Like we're fighting against all of the stress, right? And so over time, tension almost makes our stress worse, right? Because then we're reacting to it automatically. So by simply just sort of doing things like taking a hot shower, maybe stretching a little bit, doing yoga, emotion level from really high down to maybe a more manageable level, right? One of the things they talk about, change your facial expression. So close your ears for a little bit. So during the pandemic, David was home. David is my 23-year-old. Claire came home too. She was 1, and Sophie were home. And so every day was a fun experiment in what is somebody going to need at any moment, right? It's like, I need my lunch, or things in the fridge for my lunch, or what's for dinner. Oh, I don't want chicken. I want, we have blah, blah, blah. It was, did you wash my jeans that I have to wear for work? It was like constant. Every time I walked in the door, it was like, Mom, Mom, Mom. And I was just so overwhelmed. And I found myself, even before I walked in the house, tensing up. Like, okay, what's going to happen now? Who's going to want something? And what am I going to walk into? So I ended up practicing this, and I would literally like stand at the door of my house and just kind of shake my arms, take a few deep breaths, just to relax myself, right? And I found, again, close your ears, that when I just kind of walked in the house like this with a little smile on my face, it changed my behavior. It changed my attitude about how to handle things. If I walked in and was like, who wants something? I would probably overreact or get irritable or whatever. But I found if I walked in kind of like this, okay, so you don't want chicken. That's all right. Or, nope, didn't get your jeans washed. Sorry, you'll either have to wash them yourself. I found like I could handle it a little bit better just by how my body was reacting to the stress. Make sense? So just make sure you're aware of how your body is reacting and change that. One thing in the moment is actually one of my favorite skills. One thing in the moment is doing something fun that takes all of your attention. That while you're doing that thing, kind of like crocheting for Sophie, while you're doing that thing, you can't focus on anything. Because if Sophie stops counting, her stitches are going to up on her blanket, right? And she's going to have to go redo them. So doing something that takes you off. If you're playing basketball, the only thing you can do while you're playing basketball. Because if you're thinking about, this thing that I have to do tomorrow, you're going to get clocked in the head with a ball or something, right? You've got to pay attention. Where do I have to be on the court? Who do I have to guard? How do I get open to get the ball? So doing something fun in the moment that takes your brain completely out of where it was. So I don't know what that looks like for you guys, but finding those things. I have on my iPad a bunch of different recipes that I want to make. And again, while you're following a recipe and making a fun dish, you're not thinking about, your bad day or what's coming up. You've got to concentrate, right? So that's why I like to do that. Vacation, give yourself a vacation. I think a lot of times we feel like we need to finish or fix whatever we're struggling with right now. It's different, right? I've got this problem. I need to solve it. And the more we try to solve it, and we try to think about it and fix it, the more intense our emotion gets, more overwhelmed and all. And so just putting it down for a little bit, taking a little vacation, doing something fun, watching a movie or looking at pictures or of your family that you love, or going downtown for a cup of coffee, doing something to distract yourself in that moment and just kind of taking a brief vacation. And the last one is encouragement. That's a good one, isn't it? Because what do we do when we're stressed? We're down on ourselves all the time. We think negatively all the time about things, right? It's like, why can I not fix this? Why am I in this situation again? Handle this, right? And so we're negatively talking to ourselves in the moments of our crisis. So by turning it around and cheerleading ourselves, it's going to turn the situation around a little bit, right? But we have to first pay attention, which is kind of the mindful part of it. We've got to say, okay, you know what? I'm stressed and I'm beating myself up. And as long as I'm thinking this is the worst thing that's ever happened, I'm going to move forward with it. But if I can say, Patty, stop. You got this. You can handle this. Let's figure this out, right? It's that different looking at it that will help you get through the situation. And I is huge for and for myself is what I'm telling myself in the moment. Sophie, close your ears again. I've got a little story that kind of explains this whole encouragement piece really well. And so when my kids were old enough to get summer jobs, I signed her up for lifeguard training class at the aquatic center. That's what I did as a summer job. I thought a pretty easy job. You just kind of sit, watch kids swim, and, it's pretty easy. Sign them up. They go to their first class, and the teacher says, before we even start teaching you how to be lifeguards, we have to do a swimming test. Well, I guess that makes sense, right? Because if your child is drowning, you kind of want the lifeguard to know how to swim and be able to do it well, right? So the first test that they had to all do, and of course, according to my kids, all of the kids, the other kids in the class, were from swim team, right? So they all were like, Joe swimmers, perfect swimmers. And my kids had taken swimming lessons, but they hadn't really done a lot of swim team stuff. So that kind of adds a little bit of the element to it. So they had to do 300 yards without touching the bottom of the pool. So they had to swim, I think that's 12 laps or something. They both did that. The second test they had to do was tread water. I think it was maybe 5 minutes, maybe, something like that, 5 minutes. They both did that. The third test, how many of you guys have been to the aquatic center? See the deep end? They lined all the kids up, sat them on the edge of the deep end, a rubber brick, and they dropped it. It's 14 feet to the bottom of that deep end at the aquatic center. And they said, all right, dive in, get the brick, and come up. Again, all of the other kids were swim team, basically, right? And so they all dove in, got the brick, first try, came up. David's head at the time, he's like, I've never gone down to the bottom that deep before. I've never swam down that far. And they're not letting us use goggles at all. I can barely see the brick from up here. How am I going to see the brick once I'm in the water and down there? And these guys are good swimmers. And I don't think I can do this. So what's he doing in the middle of his crisis? Talking himself negatively, right? He's saying, I don't know. I think I can. So it's his turn. He dives down, tries to swim. Sure enough, when your ears start hurting and your chest is, he can't see a thing. So he comes up. He's the first kid in the class that did not get the brick on the first try. So Claire and everybody else, they're like, it's okay, it's all right. You can do it. One more try. Just try it. In his head, though, he's like, no, I cannot. I couldn't see it. I can't, hold my breath that long. There's just no way I can do it. He dove down, came up without the brick, and they sent him home. They did the walk of shame all the way out of the pool in front of all the kids. So that was rough. So Claire's sitting right next to him watching this whole thing happen, okay? She's like, there is no way that I am doing the walk of shame out of this pool. Absolutely not. I am not embarrassing myself in front of all of these kids and the instructor and whatever it is. No way. So she dove down, got the brick, and she was a lifeguard that summer, and she'll be a lifeguard again this summer. That example, I feel, clearly shows what we're telling ourselves in our head is to impact how we react to our situation. If we're telling ourselves, there's no way, I don't think I can, this is too much, we're most likely not going to succeed with that, right? And I'm not saying that just because Claire said I'm not going to get embarrassed, she got the brick. It's not a guaranteed success if you encourage yourself, but if you're telling yourself I can't do this, you're probably not. So paying attention mindfully of what is being about in our own heads to ourselves can change, I think, the outcome of what we're going through, right? Okay, so those are the skills. And I'm hoping that you guys kind of are thinking a little bit, and you can think on this more, of how you can maybe apply those in your daily life. I do it pretty regularly. I've got my different distraction skills and my mindfulness kind of practice. And if you can kind of weave that in to your daily life, it just helps in terms of decreasing your emotional stress, helping with your anxiety, and then maybe this can be something that you can encourage some of the other people in your life to do. All right? Yes, that's important, right? And it's something you can give to someone without kind of seeming like you're telling them what to do, right? So, okay. Did I go way over? Okay.
No, but there may not be time for questions right now.
That's fine. If
but
you want to come up to me later, that's
right,
great.
That's what I was just going to say. If you would like to talk to Patty, you can see she's very comfortable with staying. I don't know about her husband and her daughter, but maybe they came in 2 cars.
They're my ride home, no. Get my mask aside.
Good for you. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Patty.
thank you.
Would you thank Patty
Oh, thank you.
with me? And next week, I'm supposed to let you know that Sarah Cohen will be here from Oregon Addictions Recovery, presenting. She's a clinical social worker there who has worked there for over 11 years. And we hope to see you back then. Invite your friends. Thanks again, Patty.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.